Good time of day, guys! My name is Godzi, and welcome back to another episode of Higurashi When They Cry, Ch.3 Tatarigoroshi. Last episode, Keiichi brought up Satoshi to Shion, Bad Idea Central, and brought up the curse to Rena, Bad Idea Central 2.0, and basically just got told off by Mion like, hey, don't do that, that's kinda dumb, dude. I mean, I know you don't understand that, but don't do it, trust me. So, the life-threatening advice by Mion episode, essentially. So, hell yeah. We're gonna go into spoiler time immediately because I've got a lot to say about the anime, given some time to think about it and hear other people's theories through Twitter and YouTube, so yeah, first we're going to talk about spoilers for this arc and future arcs in general, and then we'll go into the anime, so yeah, we'll start with that. Spoiler time. If you don't want to be spoiled, mute now. I will pull up the menu here when I'm done, as usual, so start now or perish on the spot because you'll be too upset, because you'll be spoiled. So, let's go. So, I got some clarifications about some of my, questions last episode, in a comment last episode, so we'll just read that out. It says, it's not so much that Shion and Rena are particularly subject to Hinamizawa syndrome, and more that Keiichi happened to talk to them about the respective worst subjects of conversation. Which is definitely something that I kinda should have realized. I mean, I think I sort of realized that with Rena, because I'm pretty sure I said last episode, Rena's kind of loony about the curse, which is exactly what the commenter says. But Rena's, I think what I said is that she's a devout believer in Oyashiro, and obviously is crazy when it comes to the curse. With Shion, she's madly in love with Satoshi, which I guess goes beyond Hinamizawa syndrome, so yeah, continuing the comment then. Satoshi gets Shion fucked up, and Rena is a bit loony about Oyashiro-sama, already disregarding any outside factors. Also, everyone in Hinamizawa has the syndrome, but to minor extents. That does make sense, because something that I kind of remembered, and I just lost it. Fuck. I was gonna say something about either the curse or Hinamizawa syndrome. Right. Keiichi and Rena, when it comes to Hinamizawa syndrome, from what I remember, are like the big outliers as to how it affects them. Because it's like, usually it's something that only affects you if you have lived in Hinamizawa before, if I recall correctly. And since both of them are at least the only major characters, meaning the only ones in the main group, who used to live in Hinamizawa, then left for an indeterminate amount of time, then came back, Rena was affected by Hinamizawa syndrome when she was smashing the windows in her old school, for example. I don't think it really affected Keiichi outside of Hinamizawa, but it could have, or it could have gotten worse because they weren't in Hinamizawa. Like, it's kind of a double-edged sword in that you only get it if you're in Hinamizawa, but it gets worse if you leave Hinamizawa. I think? I can't fully remember, but I'm pretty sure that's something to do with it. Regardless, that's really all the clarification. Now it's time to get into the new anime, so mute now for if you don't want spoilers on the new anime. So, let's get into it. First off, we've got the same commenter who gave me clarifications on Hinamizawa syndrome and Shion and Rena. So I'll just read their comment. Oh boy, this episode. First, I want to note a detail nobody seems to notice. The gun at the crime scene is not the gun Mion had, implying Satoko brought her own. Fucking kind of wild there. Where did Satoko get a gun? Whatever. More points to my theory, which I'm seeing catch on since I've been spreading in the community. Yes, I am taking credit, and you can't do anything about it. That's perfectly fair. You're the only person I've seen, well, you're the first person I've seen actually give that theory out. I'm not, like, super duper involved in the Higurashi / When They Cry community. Like, I'm one of the smaller content creators who have played the game. Like, my Umineko videos averaged, like, 80-ish views or something while I was doing it. Some of them are into the, like, 100s, 200s now, but yeah. And Higurashi is averaging, like, 20, 30 views, so yeah. I'm not super duper involved in the community, which is kind of my own volition. I'm not really super involved in any community, so I'm not really a big part of the theory crafting experience. Like, I have my own theory, and I'm pretty confident in it, and I'm gonna give it when I finish reading this comment, but yeah, I don't mind you taking credit for it. Don't worry about that. I agree with you that Satoko is involved to an extent, and I'll go into more detail in that in a second, so yeah, I think it's reasonable to assume Satoko brought that gun and Mion didn't have a spare, so that does beg the question of what happened to Mion's gun, which I actually don't have an answer for, but moving on. Here's what I think happened. Shion killed Oreo, and the mayor then tried to kill / imprison Mion, who managed to fight back this time and killed Shion instead. However, this was an act of self-defense, and in Shion's mad ramblings, Mion found some grain of what she believed to be truth, so she decided to take on the duty as to not let her sister's death be in vain. As for who killed Rika, it could honestly go either way. I don't know which twin was at school that day. I think most of that is probably true. I think 100%, like I said last episode, I think really the only thing that we can really 100% confirm at this point is Mion killed Shion. Because there's, of course, it's up to interpretation with Shion killing Oreo and Kimiyoshi. It does bring up why the hell Kimiyoshi died a day earlier, but that probably doesn't really matter too much, but that's besides the point. Continuing the comment. What's interesting is that Mion has never had level 5 Hinamizawa syndrome ever in Higurashi history, but seems to now. I was a little bummed at first that this unspoken rule seemed to be broken, but honestly, if it was ever going to happen, this is pretty much exactly how I'd envision it. Mion is easily the most composed delusionee and still manages to be loyal to her friends, or at least Keiichi. I kinda like it. I kinda do too, honestly. I agree, Mion's definitely the most composed of them. I think it's kinda unfair to put Rika in this... Well, I'm not saying you are. Is Rika technically affected by Hinamizawa syndrome at all? Or is she, like, immune to it because of Hanyu's influence? That could create some problems with Go, then, if Rika is technically able to be affected by it now, thanks to Hanyu not fully being on her side or something. But I have a theory about that anyways. I think it's interesting seeing how Hinamizawa syndrome affects Mion, because it's like, compared to Keiichi, Rena, Shion, and Satoko, they all go absolutely apeshit. Keiichi kills his friends because he thinks they're all conspiring against them. Rena, I don't fully remember everything, but it's something to do with her dad, like, protecting her dad. Shion, the same thing with protecting Satoshi, or avenging Satoshi, more or less. Satoko, I don't fully remember, but I know she goes apeshit. I know for a fact that she does. So, yeah. It's interesting seeing how Mion is the most composed, because I guess she probably has the least to lose, potentially, because it's like she doesn't really have those same connections. Like, I'm pretty sure her mother doesn't live with her. I don't know if her dad is even alive. I don't think she cares for her grandma very much. And if she does, then I forgot. She kind of hates Shion, to an extent at least. So that just leaves, really, her friends. And it's not like she actively tried to kill, I don't think that she killed Rika, personally. I'm gonna go into my theory now. Starting there's a lot of aspects to my theory, so it might take a while to talk about. Because I'm also trying to attempt to explain Rika and Satoko's deaths in Onidamashi with this theory. I don't have the most evidence for this. This is kind of just based on assumptions, but I'm pretty confident that this is at least a possibility. So I think I'll start by explaining exactly what I think happened in Watadamashi in a blunt sense. So, first things first, I do think Satoko and Rika are both in the same time loop. So, there's that. I'll explain more about that when I finish talking about what I think happened in Watadamashi. I don't know exactly how Keiichi giving Mion the doll fully changed how Shion and Mion develop Hinamizawa syndrome, but I do think both of them did. I think what happened is the night of the festival, Shion, of course, has Hinamizawa syndrome, and that night she kills Kimiyoshi and Oreo, or at least sometime between that night and when Keiichi gets called by Mion to go to her house, she kills Kimiyoshi and Oreo. I think it's Shion at school that day where Rika goes missing. I think Shion kills Rika and dumps her in the septic tank. As for why she dumps her in the septic tank, not a clue. Probably, I think it's fair to say that Shion is being affected even harder somehow by Hinamizawa syndrome, perhaps. Maybe out of panic because her sister also has it, and her sister might also be being violent towards her. Like, maybe she's acting completely different while she's imprisoned and forced to listen to Kimiyoshi and Oreo's screams, perhaps. So yeah. Then I think when maybe Shion decides, I'm just gonna kill Mion now instead of save her for later. This is circumstantial. I'm not super confident in, like, the exact happenings, but I'm confident Shion killed Rika at school, dumped her in the septic tank. Reasons unknown, but she did it, I'm pretty sure. Then she attempts to kill Mion, but it backfires, and Mion kills Shion, dumps her in the well, where Kimiyoshi and Oreo's bodies are. Then, that night, Keiichi gets called over by Mion. Mion locks Keiichi in the cage, presumably to keep him safe, but I don't think that part really matters to my theory, because it has more to do with Satoko and Rika. I'm just explaining what I think happened in Watadamashi. Then, on the security cameras, Mion sees Satoko, or potentially someone else. That doesn't really matter much either, but either way, she goes up there, and Satoko kills Mion, then kills herself. I don't think Mion killed Satoko. I think Satoko killed herself, because I'm pretty sure. I'm actually going to go to the episode right now, and I'm going to look at that one frame where you could see the gun being held, where you can see the gun on the ground between Satoko and Mion. Sure, that's not, like, someone witnessing the scene, but the cops saw the scene, so we can probably assume that that frame is what the actual crime scene looked like. So, I'm going to pause that. How do I mute the tab? I would assume I have to right-click it. Okay, tab's muted. If you could load the episode, that'd be fantastic. Sir. Website. Please work. What's your fucking deal? I'm refreshing. Okay. Play. Are you gonna work? No? We're trying a different website then. Okay. This website then. These are legal websites, trust me. Okay. So let's just fucking... What the fuck is that show? I did not open that. Another pop-up ad. This is a legal website. Like I already said, I don't have to scroll a million years because it just has a list format at all. Nope. It's not just a list. No, it is not. H-I-G. Oh my god. There are so many shows that start with hi. Higurashi Go. No, sir. You don't even have episode 8 on this website. Are you fucking kidding me? Oh my god. This is stupid. I was hoping this would work. I'm going back to the first website. Maybe it'll actually work this time. Shit. I passed it. There it is. Okay. Maybe if I click that one, it'll work? Yeah, okay. Now it's working. So, mute. Okay, there's Mion. That's Keiichi running into the door. Okay. Okay, this... No, that's Rika. Rika's death. Okay, found dead alongside the body of Satoko Hojo. Yeah, there's Satoko's body, there's Mion's body. Yep, the gun is pointing towards Satoko. It's pretty far away from her, though? To be fair. I'm not sure how much the visual presentation matters, but the gun is in the middle of the floor. It isn't bloody either, but it's pointing towards Satoko. So I think it's fair to assume Satoko shot Mion, then shot herself, fell on her side, and the gun just slid to the floor in that position. I guess. So that was less insightful than I thought it would be. But regardless, that's what I think happened. That was like a minute and a half of me troubleshooting the website, but whoops. Anyways, so that's what I think happened from beginning to end. As far as explaining the deaths that happened in Watadamashi goes. Because it's a lot more up for interpretation. There's a lot more possibilities in Watadamashi as to how the things unfolded compared to Onidamashi. Because Onidamashi, it's kind of obvious. Rena attempts to kill Keiichi. Keiichi ends up killing Rena instead. And then Keiichi potentially commits suicide in the hospital. Satoko and Rika are a different story, but what I think happened with that scenario is Satoko killed Rika, then killed herself. Again, just like with Mion. So, why do I think this? Well, I think... I'm still kind of going with the theory that I think that Go is a game between Bernkastel and Lambda Delta. Or, to a different extent, more like their origin stories. I think that this is after the events of Higurashi proper, but before the events of Umineko. I think that Go is the origin story of Bernkastel and Lambda Delta. So, to explain this, I think that Featherin/Hanyu is more of a moderator or master of the game, so more of a neutral party. She's not helping Rika/Bernkastel. She's just kind of the overseer. She's not influencing anything at all. She's more so overseeing it. I don't think, though, that this is a competition between Rika and Satoko or Bernkastel and Lambda Delta in the sense that Featherin has put forward a new mystery for Rika to solve, and Satoko's actively sabotaging her. I think instead that Rika and Satoko are attempting to solve the same mystery while working against each other with different handicaps. So I think that each of them has an advantage over the other. So we already know that when Rika dies, she forgets everything that happens within the last 24 hours of her death. However, she does have the advantage over Satoko, or Lambda Delta, in that she already knows Takano is a problem, and she knows how to deal with Takano easily. So she deals with Takano in Onidamashi, and presumably in Watadamashi, in a similar, or maybe more aggressive way even. So she does that. Meanwhile, Satoko, or Lambda Delta, and I know Lambda Delta is supposed to, like, be 34, like the number 34, and Mio Takano is supposed to also be 34, the number, and Wir 30, 34 in German. But I still think Lambda Delta much more resembles Satoko than Takano, and her name might just be a convenience thing, or even a red herring. This is a theory, after all. I'm not saying that this is 100% fact. If I'm wrong, then I'm wrong. Like, that's just how it is. So I think what's happening there, I think what Satoko's advantage is that unlike Rika, when she dies, she doesn't forget things from the last 24 hours before the time loop resets. And she remembers her death, how she dies, who killed her, if anyone, and, of course, everything that she figured out in those 24 hours leading up to her death. So, wahoo! Do I have evidence for that? No, but I think that it would be a convenient thing to be true to explain Satoko and Rika's death in Onidamashi, and Satoko and Mion's death in Watadamashi. So, let's explain Onidamashi, then, from the perspective of Satoko and Rika. Satoko and Rika do not know that they're against each other, they just know that they have a mystery to solve, in that there's something going on in Hinamizawa. One of the people is a culprit, or whatever, and you gotta find out what's going on. We still don't really know what this mystery could be, but either way, there's something going on, and either Satoko or Rika has to figure out what it is and win against the other, but they don't know they're against each other. So Rika is just like, alright, first thing I need to do is fuck over Takano, so she does that. And Satoko is being perceptive, just trying to figure out everything that's going on, and she happens to notice Rika, who she lives with, is doing a lot of suspicious things. So she starts spying on Rika, she sees her sabotaging Takano, and she decides, maybe it's just this easy. Maybe it's Rika who's the culprit. So she confronts Rika, and Rika, probably assuming that Satoko is in the same time loop as her, thinking, she's not going to remember anything from the last 24 hours after she dies. I suppose this is who I'm up against. Or maybe she's assuming, if she's not told beforehand that she's up against anybody, she's just like, I suppose I'm against her. She's not the culprit I'm looking for. She's my opponent in this game. So, there's no problem with me divulging everything I know to her. And Satoko uses that to her advantage and decides, awesome, so Rika forgets everything in the last 24 hours before her death? Before the next time loop starts? Awesome, so if I kill her and then kill myself, I can reset the time loop using this knowledge that I know for a fact Rika's not the culprit. So she does that. She stabs Rika to death, and then stabs herself to death. Time loop resets, Watadamashi starts. Throughout this, Rika ends up becoming suspicious of Keiichi, perhaps because of any different behaviors he did that changed things drastically compared to Watanagashi. Because Rika also has the knowledge of, like, what should cause different things to happen from previous arcs. And perhaps she thinks that, like, how the hell did Mion and Shion both get Hinamizawa syndrome when the only major difference that I just caused was making Keiichi give Mion the doll instead of Rena. Kinda strange. So, perhaps when Rika goes Burn Castle mode on Keiichi in episode 3 of Watadamashi, I think it was 3, she's just like, well, he's not the culprit after all, I guess. This timeline fucking sucks. I give up, or whatever. Or she's just like, it doesn't matter, he's not gonna remember this, he's just a piece, he's not the culprit. And I'm not against him either. Then Satoko sees that happen, and she's just like, alright, so Keiichi, what's going on there? Rika disappears, and Satoko might be suspicious of Keiichi. And then she's just, that would explain why the way she talks to him at the beginning of episode 4 of Watadamashi, with being like, you were with Rika last, so where do you think she went, yada yada yada. But then perhaps during that same conversation, because Mion/Shion brings up the construction dudes talking to her behind the building, Satoko might be more like, maybe it's Mion or Shion, because maybe, let's just say, Satoko doesn't know a goddamn thing about Hinamizawa syndrome. So she just thinks any death that happens is what the mystery is. So then Rika, on the other hand, doesn't know anything. So then Satoko knows, alright, Rika can't be the killer because she got killed. I'm going to confront Mion at her house with this gun, shoot her. Like, maybe the goal is kill the culprit and then yourself and you win, or something like that. Or maybe not. Maybe Satoko kills Mion by shooting her, and then nothing happens and she's just like, was it not Mion? Shoots herself, resets the time loop. And maybe starting in Tatarigoroshi, Satoko will know from the get-go, the culprit's not Rika, the culprit's not Mion. Or maybe it is and that was Shion. I don't know. So she's just like, alright, kind of back to square one. That's what my theory is. I think it's a competition between Rika and Satoko, and this is eventually going to turn into the origin story of Bernkastel and Lambda Delta. This could potentially explain why Featherin is presumably in the opening, because she's like the moderator for the game or something, and she might show up in this next arc. Hell, I wouldn't be surprised if, since Tatarigoroshi is it focuses so much on Satoko compared to any other character, that in Tatarigoroshi, if Satoko is actually part of this time loop, whether she's trying to sabotage Rika, or she's the new culprit, or she's a competitor against Rika trying to find the quote-unquote new culprit. If there is a new culprit, maybe there's a different cause to this new mystery. Maybe there's nothing going on at all, and Featherin is just torturing them, turning them into Bernkastel and Lambda Delta. Perhaps. And so, I wouldn't be surprised if in Tatarigoroshi we see Featherin show up, we see Satoko talking to Featherin, and we see more of what's going on in the grander scheme of things. I think that the next arc is going to be pretty eye-opening, all things considered. So, yeah, I'm excited for Tatarigoroshi. I want to get through as much of Tatarigoroshi right now as I can before Tatarigoroshi starts going too fast. Because from what I remember, the beginning of Watadamashi went through like 5 hours of relative compared to the visual novel content. So that's kind of crazy considering this episode that I'm on is only episode 6 of Tatarigoroshi. So I don't know if I'm going to try to go for a bit longer today. Maybe go to like an hour and a half of in-game content. But we will see. Either way, that's my theory. I don't have a fuck ton of evidence for it. It's more just convenient. I don't think there's anything that necessarily disproves it. I just think it probably is wrong to an extent. Either way, I think definitely Satoko's in on the time loop also, and that there's potentially somebody else who's suspicious. My suspicions lead to Keiichi, but it doesn't necessarily have to be Keiichi. In the grander scheme of things, if we look at Umineko also, maybe it's a piece that Featherin controls, in which case maybe Hanyu is still around, or maybe it's Takano again, but in a different sense. Maybe Beatrice is part of it, but I doubt that entirely, since she's a witch based on a human from Umineko, and to our knowledge, no one in Umineko has any influence, like no humans from Umineko, I should say, have any influence on anything that happens in Higurashi, except for supposedly Okanogi. Like, I've been told Okanogi shows up in Higurashi at some point. I don't remember him showing up. I don't remember him being an important character, but maybe it's something to do with Okanogi. After all, Okanogi does also show up in Kikonia, which I have yet to finish, but I plan to probably by the middle of January, because I have like 3 weeks off from basically everything in the middle of December to the middle of January. So that would be a great period of time for me to just go, alright, I'm gonna spend like an hour on Kikonia every day or something and try and finish it. I won't be uploading it until I'm allowed to because of the content embargo, but that's besides the point. This is without a doubt the longest beginning of the episode discussion I've ever frickin' had, at least for this series. I'm sure I've had I know for a fact, actually, that I had a longer discussion at the beginning, like the very, very, very first episode of Umineko Answers Arc. That was like a 50-minute episode, and I talked for maybe 35 to 40 minutes, and only had like 10 minutes of content, which, weird, but hey, you know, shit happens like that, and that was like over a year and a half ago or something. Was that that was not the beginning of this year, that was last year, right? Regardless, holy shit, long discussion aside, let's get back into the game. Hi guys, I realized that you were probably sitting in silence for forever, or you skipped ahead. It probably would be a good idea for me to put timestamps instead of doing this whole menu thing, but regardless, let's read. Lunchtime arrived, with everyone pushing their desks together like always. Satoko wasn't here. Despite that, we had bento boxes for 5 lined up on our desks. Rika-chan had made a bento for Satoko, too. Was Satoko supposed to be here before lunch? Rika-chan was clearly acting strangely. We were talking to her, but it felt like she was too far away to hear us. I'd never seen Rika-chan so downcast. So, the rest of us started feeling down too. Hey, Rena. I understood what she had said before pretty well. When we were together, we were supposed to have lots of fun so we wouldn't have any regrets if the world ended tomorrow. And yet, well, I just resolved myself to do it. Now we can't all be together. What the hell? Because it was just so sudden, wasn't it? I mean, yesterday was fun, so who could believe it would all end today? No volcanoes had erupted, and no earthquakes or fires had happened either. The cicadas were making the same noises they did yesterday, and the sun remained bright in the sky. It was the same normal day as always. So then, why? As I pondered, Rena's chopsticks reached in front of my face and stole the fried chicken out of my bento.
If no one else wants it, Rena will take it. Hee delicious.
Rena tossed the entire piece into her mouth and began munching on it, her expression one of bliss. I'm such an old man. Rena got a leg up on me. Alright, this old man's taking this bit of steak here.
Me, all my food is gone except my rice.
Rika-chan, also behind the curve, smiled again and went for someone else's bento. As I sat there, dazed at how quickly everyone had changed, Rena sent a wink over to me. Come on, Keiichi-kun, live life to the fullest. That way if a volcano erupts tomorrow, it'll be okay. This is serious! I'll be damned if dried plums and rice are the only things I have left for lunch. I'm taking that meatball! I stuffed the meat into my mouth and constructed a clumsy smile. Great out-of-context line. I played along as if trying to fool myself. But as I did, it rapidly became less and less of an act. Satoko still wasn't here, but at some point we had regained our lively lunchtime. We had fun, we smiled, and we fooled around. Thanks, everyone. This was I bit my tongue, sorta. This was definitely the best thing to do. This way, when Satoko suddenly dropped by, we could welcome her with our best smiles. The more I smiled, the more I felt the anxiety from this morning clearing away. This song loops way too fast. Wasn't there a proverb that when something like fortune comes in by a merry gate? I think so. If it's true, then this old man will roll around the floor laughing 24/7.
Rena thinks it's true. If you laugh every day, it'll be fun every day. Rena has a way with words.
And should we try it out? Everyone took a deep breath, then brought their faces together, locking shoulders. And then... Ha 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 ha. Everyone laughed uproariously from their stomachs, trying to laugh out all the bad stuff accumulating in them. This song keeps looping and it's making me insane. By the time our bento boxes were empty, everyone was right as rain. I'm gonna fucking just delete myself if I end another episode 3 minutes before the end of a chapter. Alright, go away, looping music. Yay! Having heard our friendly banter, Tomita-kun and Okamura-kun walked up and timidly spoke to us. Excuse me, Mayabara-san. Sorry to interrupt your fun, but we need your help with something. They grinned dryly and scratched their heads. What could it be? Want to know how to remove the censor bars in porn magazines? And by the way, don't believe what you hear about butter doing the trick. Total superstition. Can't use an eraser either. Wait, what? Seriously? That's not what we're here for, said Tomita-kun, elbowing Okamura-kun. Actually, our ball got caught in the gutter on the second floor. We were thinking you might be able to reach it since you're tall. I see. Asking an upperclassman for help comes with its own price, you know? I'm not cheap. You can't buy me out so easily. Tomita-kun and Okamura-kun conversed for a short time, then gave their reply. We'll give you the right to take a nap during class, Mayabara-san. How does that sound? What do you mean? I can sleep during class whenever I want. Why do I need your permission for it? No, you can't. The next time you take a nap, we'll tell Sensei about it. I see. How sly. You little... Where did you learn to bargain like that? Ugh. Sorry. It was just a little joke. Come on, Kei-chan. Why not just cave into your underclassmen's threats? Cuckoo. And now Mion was getting on my nerves. Suddenly it came to me, and I took Tomita-kun and Okamura-kun's hands. Alright, I surrender. I'll get your ball for you, so give me all the rights to nap time. Huh? Oh, okay. Look, Mion, I now have the privilege. But you don't, do you? Tomita-kun, Okamura-kun. Tell on Mion as soon as she falls asleep. Got it? Yeah! Rena and Rika-chan began to cackle at Keiichi-kun's victory. I wasn't sure how the ball managed to get stuck up there, but it was planted firmly in the school building's second floor gutter. Hand me that stick. I should be able to reach it. Here we go. Ugh. I took a bamboo pole and poked the ball with it. Damn, it's hard. Come on! Oh, he got it! You got it, Mayabara-san! Thank you so much! The ball rolled down the gutter and fell down behind the school building. My underclassmen ran over in that direction, leaving me by myself. Mission complete, I guess. Sheesh. There was still a lot of time left until lunch break was over. Guess I should go back to the classroom. I'd absorb myself in a silly conversation with everyone and wait for afternoon classes. Just when I thought about that and turned towards the entrance, someone suddenly called out to me. Kay, hello? Hello there, good day. Sorry for bothering you during your lunch break. It was a middle-aged man I didn't know. He does this every chapter now, apparently. Or maybe I'd passed by him a few times and I'd seen his face, but I didn't know him. When his half-smile deepened, something within me shuddered with fear. There was no basis for that, no reason, but I shuddered. I was somewhat confused about those emotions, not quite understanding them myself. There was one thing I could say, though. Nobody but teachers and students should be at school. This person shouldn't have been here. I felt less of a tremble and more of a sense of dread, like a caterpillar, brilliantly colored in garish, bilious greens, were crawling across my forehead. A feeling of disgust that neither itchy nor gross could describe as the frizzly, dreadful hair rubbed against my brow. I didn't even want to see his face. I wanted to jump backwards and run away. An unpleasant feeling for which I didn't even know the cause. The other side of myself has nothing but questions. Hey, what are you doing? What are you disgusted by? This is the first time you've met him. It's rude to hate someone for no reason. No answers were coming. I held my silence, waiting, a damp sweat running down my forehead. When he saw that, Oishi thought maybe he was being intimidating and gave me a relaxed smile. Bruh, you don't know his name yet. Oh, please, excuse me. I'm no one suspicious, I assure you. I'm Oishi, from the Okinomiya Police Department. Wait, where did I put my card? Huh? What? This is... what? He fished through various pockets, then finally found his police ID and showed it to me, grinning dryly. He may have been trying to use those clumsy-seeming actions to ease my anxiety, but I could definitely say it didn't work. Why was I this nervous? There was a reason, of course. If I wanted today to be the same as before, then today didn't need someone who hadn't been here back then. The fact that a man who wasn't here yesterday showed up today meant that today would be a different day than those before it. That would mark the end of the fun and happy days. I gulped and erased that ominous conclusion from my mind. Calm down, Keiichi Maebara. It's just an old guy who looks kind of perverted and came from the police department. Don't go deciding that the fun times are over. He just came here because of his job. Yeah, just for his job. If he's working, then he would normally go to the teacher's lounge, right? The fact that he spoke to me, yes, it must have been to ask where it was. Are you looking for the teacher's lounge? You just have to go through the entrance, and... I didn't want to look at this man for another second, so I started pushing things along. Oishi, however, didn't seem to have any interest in the teacher's lounge. Oh, no. I don't have anything to do there. Could I get you to call a friend of yours, if I may be so bold? A friend? Who? A girl. Could you call Satoko Hojo-san for me? My consciousness grew faint, like I was about to pass out. Yes. My anxiety was realized. The dreadful, disgusting caterpillar was looking at me, about to crawl into my ear. Its frizzly, dreadful hair was touching my ear cavity. That's how bad it felt. What do the police need with Satoko? My throat is not being nice to me at all today. No. It's nothing important. I just had 2 or 3 things to ask. I'd like it if you could cooperate with me. Why? Why, of all people, was it Satoko? Why would a police officer come here in the middle of the day for something that wasn't important? This man was strange. I could smell it. And it smelled bad. Just a whiff of it made me want to grimace. I knew that this man couldn't possibly be here to deliver her lost wallet or anything. I couldn't imagine what he needed from Satoko, but it had to be something unpleasant. My throat stung with burning pain. Burned like a parched, creviced wasteland. The wasteland broke apart deep in my throat and brought out the words from deep in my mind. You may need something from her, but I don't think Satoko needs anything from you. Could you please leave? Oishi probably hadn't expected that reply. He stood there with surprise for a few moments. I did as well. I hadn't thought words like that could ever come out of my mouth. Things might still work out. This guy may have shown up out of the blue, but if I drove him off, maybe I could make it so that it never happened. If I could do that, then I could get back the peace we had until yesterday. I could get it back. Well, you sure are strict. Are you Satoko-san's manager, perhaps? Can I not see her without an appointment? If you just want to talk to her, shouldn't you just call her? Barging into school in the middle of the day isn't normal. Breaking through a dam would have been the perfect analogy to use. Why didn't I like this man? This man shouldn't have been here. I needed to make it so that this man wasn't here. Childish, selfish emotions bubbled up from the depths of my mind, and they each came out of my mouth just as it had been formed. Not liking the guy was my own problem, but to say things so bluntly to him, even I thought I was crazy. Oh, you're the logical sort, aren't you? I'm not too good with people who talk like that. Oishi grinned and scratched at his sweaty throat. What a great action for him to do, considering the fact that I don't think that can affect him. You know? Granted, maybe it can. I don't know. Even as he feigned stupidity, I could tell he was irritated. Hey, Keiichi Maebara, why am I looking for a fight with this old policeman here? It's not like he brought the gift of misfortune with him all wrapped up in paper, right? Right. It wasn't like he had brought a package of misfortune with him and was asking me to sign here, please. Rationally speaking, I understood all that. So then, why was I so... Finally, I outlasted Oishi in our game of silence, and he gave a big sigh. Then he addressed a few of my female underclassmen running around nearby. Oh, excuse me, all of you. Do you have a moment? I'd like you to call Satoko Hojo-san if you could. My underclassmen tried to smile in reply, but they noticed the oddly stiff air atmosphere around me, and seemed hesitant to give a quick answer. Is she not here? Satoko Hojo-san? Hojo-san... She stayed home today. Stayed home? His face remained smiling, but his tone was clearly one of ill humor. Such conspicuous spite caused my underclassmen, who had answered honestly, to cringe in fear. I see. Dear me. I'm quite unlucky. He was smiling broadly, but the way he laughed didn't make me feel better at all. When he noticed that his laughter wasn't getting anyone else to laugh with him, he immediately stopped. So, you girls, could you tell me the name of this boy here? He grabbed the girls by the shoulder so they wouldn't run away, and crouched down to address them at eye level. The girls flinched away from the sharp, piercing light in his eyes, and in exchange for their release, they didn't resist and told him my name. I see. Keiichi Maebara-san. Is that it? He said my full name. That was all he said, and yet I couldn't help but shudder. It was like he had grabbed me by the collar just with those words. No, could you be the son of the Maebara family I've heard so much about? I hear your father is a renowned artist who used to have the same voice as me before it was changed to be more fitting with my personality. His works go on display twice a year in the great exhibition in Tokyo, don't they? I don't know what sort of fantastic pictures he creates, though. Then there's your mother. She seems intelligent, too. I heard she was a high academic achiever. She went to some girls' university, didn't she? It's amazing for someone that age to have graduated from a girls' university. Could your mother actually be the daughter of a respectable family? At least those are the rumors. And they say she's a cold person because of it. Did you know that? She only went to the very first neighborhood association meeting, right? That's certainly no good. You can't disrespect your neighbors in a place like this. A sense of eeriness slithered up my spine. That was my first experience of true terror. I couldn't believe it felt this terrible. For someone you've just met, to know everything about you already. Oishi clamped onto my shoulders and brought his eyes close to peer into mine. In a place like this, it would be far better not to make enemies, wouldn't it? If not... Ow! Oishi dug into my shoulders with inhuman strength. Gah. Then if something unexpected were to happen, you might see some drawbacks. Have you ever heard of karma? He's this big horse fucker. It's like how a butterfly flapping its wings can cause a tornado. Grudges born in strange places could come back to you in ways you wouldn't believe. You wouldn't like that, would you? Nobody wants to have a grudge held against them. There's nothing positive about making enemies. What's the matter? Your shoulders are very stiff. Should I give you a massage? See, feels good, right? Ow! This man wasn't just strong. It was like he knew exactly where to press to make me feel pain. Yeah, only 4 or 5 fingers were on my shoulders, and yet the pain made me want to bend over backwards. Ugh. A few of the girls from my class were pretty shaken up, but didn't seem to want to help me. They weren't sure if they should go call the teacher. As for me, I couldn't take the time to wait until the teacher got here. It hurts! Oh, hi, Uri. Would you mind leaving things at that? You're hurting him. Behind Oishi-san, someone, to my disbelief, it was Coach. Oh my. If it isn't Dr. Irie, it certainly has been a while since we were last in touch. Discomforted by Coach's sudden appearance, Oishi laughed scornfully. The vice on my shoulders, however, remained as strong as ever. Never mind the greetings. Please, just let go of my Ibarra-kun. Oishi smiled daringly and glared straight at Coach. He didn't release me in the meantime, of course. I was just thinking of stopping by your place later, Doctor. You always seem so busy and we can never have a good chat. Yes. If you want, I'll chat with you all you like. But please be sure to have a warrant first. After all, otherwise, I can refuse to go voluntarily into questioning. Coach didn't display a shred of the weird behavior he'd shown at the baseball game and barbecue. He stared readily at Oishi, and fought so that he would release me. His chances were terribly bad, of course. Compared to the relaxed Oishi, Coach seemed like he was being defeated mentally. It made sense. Coach had a somewhat narrow stature, but Oishi's body was packed with muscles. It wasn't even a contest. But Coach was fighting for me, without taking a step back. Beads of sweat formed on his face, and though he paled, he was fighting for my sake. Suddenly, Oishi laughed and let go of my shoulders. My body exhausted, I fell right onto my backside. My Ibarra-kun! Are you alright? Damn it. Ow! I rubbed my shoulders where Oishi had latched onto them. The pain from falling over went away quickly, but this pain was lingering. Are you alright, my Ibarra-kun? This is terrible. Shit. Ow. Ow. I was just giving him a little massage. My Ibarra-san, aren't you over-exaggerating a bit? Boys have got to learn to man up. Toxic masculinity incarnate, that's just Oishi, isn't it? I wanted to retort, but I couldn't think of anything witty. Can you lift your shoulders? Are they in pain? If you're really hurt, then you should have a proper checkup. Let's just go to the nurse's office. Coach lent me his shoulder and walked beside me. What an exaggeration. I'd be the last person to do any sort of permanent damage. Right? I'm not an American cop. I am still an active police officer, you know? Come, I don't know what you needed to be here for, but if you're finished, then please leave. I'm going to complain about this directly to the chief, so please keep that in mind. No, that's a problem, ain't it? Oishi-san waved his hand sarcastically, pivoted around, and headed to the car parked by the school gates. And I forgot to say it's air-conditioned! No one cares! And without turning back around, he got in and started the engine. Damn it. Who the hell was he? Damn it! He's a detective named Kuraudo Oishi. Why do I have to click twice all of a sudden? And a hooligan. Everyone in the village hates him. My Ibarra-san, you should be careful too. Kuraudo Oishi. Just like I thought, my gut instinct wasn't wrong. He would be the one. The one to bring unhappiness, misfortune, something that would ruin our peace. Shit. I won't accept it. All these fun days can't possibly end just because some guy like him showed up. I won't accept it. Coach seemed to be familiar with the school, so he brought me to the nurse's office without much trouble. The girls from my class came along as well, looking worried. Our teacher and the principal, having noticed the disturbance, came to see what was the matter.
Mayabara-kun! What's wrong? Are you hurt? Well, there was this weird man in the schoolyard just now, and Mayabara-san...
Coach gently interrupted the girls trying to explain. No. It looks like he just fell and twisted something. I think he's alright, but I wanted to make sure. If it's fine with you, I'll borrow the nurse's office for a bit. Please do, Dr. Irie. The principal gave him a deep bow. I wish he had a Sprite. It looked like Coach was acquainted with the adults at school. He slid open the doors to the nurse's office, but there wasn't a nurse in there or anything. I'd figured. I'd never seen anyone but Chie-sensei and the principal working here. Coach didn't seem to mind the fact that there was no nurse and quickly made his way into the nurse's office. He instructed me to sit down and started washing his hands in the sink. Oh, I get it. He's the coach for the boys' baseball team. He must be pretty used to treating wounds with first aid. Could you show me where it was? Are you still in pain? No, it doesn't hurt at all anymore. I'm fine, really. I rolled up my shirt and showed him my shoulder. No bruise, not even nail marks. Wait, no bruise, not even nail marks. And yet it had hurt so much I thought my shoulders would be crushed. Even the pain had disappeared without a trace. It hurt so much, but not so much as a bruise remained. It just means he's used to doing that. Used to it, huh? The next time you meet, don't provoke him. Nothing good will come of making him angry. If you go home with a uniformed policeman by your side, your family won't like that, will they? Well, you're right. Still, what happened? Why did you end up in a fight with him? He came up and said he needed something from Satoko. Huh? Satoko-chan? Coach's gaze lowered and his expression clouded a bit. Somehow, that gesture seemed to be saying Oishi was bound to come to Satoko, and did, and that it was no laughing matter. Coach fell silent in thought. Quietly, he took a compress out of the first aid kit and put it on me. Does he still plan on clinging to Satoko-chan? He's a persistent man, I'll give him that. Like a snake. Coach mumbled to himself. Cling? Does that Oishi guy go to Satoko's place a lot? Coach didn't answer, but the lack of a denial served well enough. What on earth did the policeman, probably a detective or something, need from Satoko? What mistake had led a detective to cling to the sweetly smiling Satoko? Mayabara-san? Oh, right. You just moved here, didn't you? Yes, I did, but... Have you heard anything about Oyashiro-sama's curse, and about Satoko-chan? Well, I knew a few things about it, certainly. Satoko's parents were dam proponents, and their accidental death was because of the curse. You mean that? Coach smiled thinly and dryly. So you know, he said, dropping his gaze. If I recalled correctly, there was an accident on a viewing platform at the public park she'd gone to with her family, and her parents died. And then, it was just big brother and little sister. And then she was with Rika-chan and... When they lost their parents, Satoko-chan and her brother Satoshi-kun were given to their uncle and his wife to care for them. Oh, is that so? Their parents died in the accident and Satoshi ran away, leaving only Satoko to start living with Rika-chan. I'd known that much, but this was the first time I'd heard they'd been brought to their uncle and aunt. Their uncle was Satoko-chan's father's younger brother. Unfortunately, neither of the couple were people deserving of respect. Coach normally picked his words politely, So when he came out and said that they didn't deserve respect, it really made me wonder what kind of people they were.
As soon as Satoko-chan's parents came out in support of the dam, their uncle and aunt took on a lot of the shame in the village as well. They would never have welcomed in Satoko-chan and Satoshi-kun. I've heard that for the siblings, it was a very rough life.
Bit by bit, Coach told me about the numerous agonies the Hojo siblings had suffered at their uncle's house. As their guardians, their aunt and uncle sucked up everything belonging to their immediate family. Satoko and Satoshi were crammed into a small room, and their lives were laden with things that were miserable both for their bodies and minds. In the first place, since apparently their aunt and uncle weren't on good terms, there was no end to their fighting. And as if in revenge for that, whenever they saw Satoko or Satoshi's face, they would always find fault with them, scold them, yell at them, strike them, and take away meals as punishment.
Christ, I still shudder to think about it. You've never known any Satoko but the energetic and healthy one now, so you probably couldn't imagine her face being so deathly pale, a girl always standing dazed in the shade of trees.
I couldn't imagine it, and I didn't want to. That was how I honestly felt. But at the very least, Satoko wasn't like that anymore. She may have had a miserable life in the past, but it was different now. Something happened to change that life.
Last year, on the night of the Watanagashi festival, their aunt died. She was beaten to death by a deviant with a baseball bat. Rumors spread of the curse having killed an enemy of the village on the night of the festival. This death wasn't a simple homicide either. They whispered that it was actually Oyashiro-sama's curse.
A few days later, the deviant arrested for drug use confessed to further offenses and the incident was resolved. However, though it was resolved, no one knew whether the part about it being Oyashiro-sama's curse was true or not.
Their uncle is part of Hinamizawa, after all. He apparently grew incredibly frightened of Oyashiro-sama's curse and went to hiding. From what I've heard, he's staying with an intimate lady friend somewhere in Okinomiya.
Ah, and that must be the woman that turned up dead. And Satoko and Satoshi, were they released?
Their aunt died and their uncle fled. There was nobody left to torment the siblings then, but as if picking up their torch, that man started showing up with alarming tenacity.
That man? Then Coach lowered his voice just a bit as if being aware of his surroundings.
I mean Oishi.
Oishi? The guy from before. The events that just occurred came back to me. The hard-to-describe ominous sensation I'd felt from him came back to me.
He's a little strange. The chain of incidents surrounding Oyashiro-sama's curse have all been solved, and yet he alone doesn't want to accept that.
Accept it? The incidents were all solved, and the detectives supposedly with the police department didn't accept that?
People say that something bad will surely happen to those he gets close to. In Hinamizawa, they think Oishi is Oyashiro-sama's...
Oh, Kei-chan! The door flew open with a rattle and Mion came rushing in. Rena and Rika-chan came running in a few steps behind her, and then Tomita-kun, Okamura-kun, and a few more of her classmates.
Kei-chan! Did Oishi do something to you? Are you hurt?
Calm down, Mion-san. He's not injured. I only gave him a compress just in case.
Keiichi-kun, are you really okay? Okay? Everyone was saying stuff about how you were being strangled.
Calm down, Rena. He just squeezed my shoulders really hard. See, there's not even a bruise.
Meep.
Jeez! What the heck were you all doing? We're friends, right? Why were you just standing around? Why didn't you help Kei-chan?
We're sorry, President.
Mion yelled at her classmates, baring her fangs. Tomita-kun and the others hung their heads in silence. Quit it, Mion. Tomita-kun and the others weren't even there. Stop blaming them. Damn it! Oishi! Mion kicked the floor with her heel a few times, her temper running hot. Our teacher, overhearing the commotion, arrived as well. Hey, come on, everyone! Don't make so much noise in the nurse's office. President, take everyone and leave, please.
Come on, everyone. Let's get going. Keiichi-kun is fine. You too, Michan.
Mion was letting her emotions get the best of her, so Rena stepped in instead and let everyone out of the nurse's office. The detective from Okinomiya Station, Kurado Oishi. It looked like the first impression I'd gotten from him hadn't been mistaken. Satoko's absence had amplified the vague apprehensions I'd felt since yesterday, and Oishi's appearance basically sealed the deal. Alright, I'll get going. I originally came here for Chie-sensei. Ah, so you had something to do here. Sorry for causing you trouble. Don't be so humble, he said, smiling easily. There was a side benefit to all this. I was lucky enough to experience so much of your soft, silky skin, Mayabara-kun. Okay, dude. With the usual, for Coach anyway, parting words, he instead continued. Please excuse me. You weren't wounded badly, but please avoid putting pressure on your shoulders or anything along those lines. If you get a high fever, it starts to swell, contact me right away, okay? I don't think it'll happen, though. No, that's right, Coach. Before everyone came in, you were going to say something about what people think Oishi is to Oyashiro-sama. As he was about to leave the nurse's office, Coach placed a hand on the door and stopped. Right. They think he's Oyashiro-sama's servant. They're just bad-mouthing him, though. Oyashiro-sama's servant? Do you know about the serial freak death incidents that occur in Hinamizawa every year on the night of the Watanagashi festival, otherwise known as Oyashiro-sama's curse? What? Freak deaths? What? Now that I thought about it, I did seem to remember overhearing Mion or someone in class talking about it like a ghost story. On the festival day in June, one person would always die, and another person would be spirited away, but they seem to call it demoning away here. What a fine story that was. I figured they made it up to scare me, but it was true? I don't have any idea who first suggested this, but at some point, everyone started calling Oishi Oyashiro-sama's servant. Why? Because the rumors go that he decides the sacrifices for the curse every year. Whenever June came around, Oishi would start paying frequent visits to Hinamizawa. Because Oishi had been persistently questioning most of the dead or disappeared people. 4 years ago, it was known that the victim of the dismemberment, rumored to be the sacrifice, had been seeing Oishi numerous times leading up to the incident. The sacrifices 3 years ago were Satoko's parents. Right before their accidental deaths, Oishi had apparently visited their home. The one who disappeared 2 years ago was Rika-chan's mother. And again, people know that before she vanished, Oishi had been talking to her extremely frequently. The one who disappeared last year, Satoko's older brother, Satoshi. Satoshi, too, had apparently been approached by Oishi many times before he vanished. And then this year, this time Oishi was trying to contact Satoko? This isn't a freaking joke! There are rumors, Mayabara-san. There's just some rumors to that effect. I hadn't said that because of the rumors of Oishi being Oyashiro-sama's servant, or his contacting someone foreshadowing who would be the sacrifice that year. It was because the ominous hatred I felt toward Oishi was becoming more substantiated, more real. Today, Satoko, she was absent today. Wait, really? That looked like news to Coach. I had thought he might have known why Satoko was absent today, but... Then I'll get going. You should go back to the others and put their minds at ease. You're right. I will. Clatter. Coach left the nurse's office and headed towards the teacher's lounge. Interessante. I forgot all this stuff about Oishi being considered, like, the servant of Oyashiro-sama. Ooh, new tips unlocked. Research notes and Oishi's post memo. Alrighty. Achievement unlocked, better left untold, and it's one of those balls from Gmod as the icon. Neato. Research notes. That was a weird noise that I just made, I'm sorry. The Hojo family. Every year, Oyashiro-sama's curse claims 2 victims. This means that with 4 years in a row, there have been 8 now, but it's worthwhile to note half of them have been members of this family. Note, the curse on the 2nd year, a certain falling accident, involved the death of Hojo, a dam proponent, and the disappearance of his wife. She was pronounced dead the following year after being considered to have vanished under perilous circumstances. The curse on the 4th year involved the death of the Hojo siblings' aunt, who was then their foster mother, and the disappearance of the elder brother. The Hojo family is a poor one, and it's hard to say Mr. Hojo's job went very well. Apparently, upon re-employment via family connections, there was a plan for them to return to the home of the mother's side of the family. For Mr. Hojo, the eviction due to the Hinamizawa Dam project and the payment of a large amount of compensation money was essentially a windfall. Mr. Hojo actively embraced the Ministry of Construction's negotiations from an early stage and was selected as representative of the dam proponents. It was rumored he had been bought out by the Ministry of Construction for doing so, but the truth is unknown. However, the dam's proponents were in the vastly outnumbered minority. In addition, as the Sonozaki family strengthened its own foundation and promised support against the dam, all of the proponents save for Mr. Hojo switched over to the anti-dam side. At this point, Hinamizawa was completely united against the dam, and Mr. Hojo was held up to ridicule as a stooge of the dam project's proponents. He was essentially used as a scapegoat for the anti-dam coalition. In the end, the dam project collapsed with Oyashiro-sama's curse and the dismemberment incident. However, punishment towards the bitter enemies supporting the dam project continues to this day. There are not many left today who supported the dam project, nor who had a negative reputation at the time. If there were any candidates left for the curse, it's the husband of the housewife who was beaten to death last year, Teppei Hojo, and Mr. Hojo's daughter, Satoko Hojo. Strangely, these two are the only candidates left. Will this year's curse come down on the two of them? There is more than enough value in observing them both. I was about to say how it's funny how they don't bring up Tomitake and Takano, but they haven't even shown up yet, and we're still a ways off from the festival, aren't we? So, Oishi's post memo. To Oishi-san, there was a call for you from Section 4's Chief Shigeharu. Apparently the slaughtered corpse in the Ochikawa River is related to the S group, as we thought. Ooh. We're still verifying what happened behind the scenes, but apparently... Oh wait, Sonozaki, right. That's probably what S means. But apparently the deceased filled up dozens of self-created fictional bank accounts that are limits with money from the S group, reaching around 100 million yen. It appears there were 3 or 4 men with former S group connections involved in this. They've already disappeared along with millions of yen. The deceased was tortured on that point for information, and she was clearly slaughtered as an example to others. There are apparently some real wizards chasing down the people who disappeared. They're also spreading letters to related Yakuza groups not to harbor them. There's still no evidence that Teppei Hojo is one of those people. As far as Chief Shigeharu can tell, he hasn't been told anything. He was her pimp, but she didn't trust him at all, did she? Teppei Hojo has left the apartment in Okinomiya and has returned to his former residence in Hinamizawa. So that's just meant to say, the uncle's back. Woohoo, spooky time. Oh, I wholeheartedly wanted to protect her. I wanted more than anybody else what was best for her. These emotions born from kindness eventually became murderous intent. My pure white intentions stained in red and black. And even as I understood that it meant the destruction of the day-to-day life I so wanted to protect. Tatarigoroshi. Where did I go wrong? Looking for the answer, the tragedy spreads ever wider. Oh boy.
Is Hojo-san staying home today, too? Furude-san, do you know anything?
The teacher's voice wasn't critical, but Rika-chan hung her head, unable to answer, and I felt really bad for her. The teacher called Rika-chan up, and they had an exchange in hushed tones at the dies? Okay. At first, Rika-chan said that Satoko's fever had grown worse, but everyone in class knew it was a lie. Because every day, Rika-chan brought Satoko's bento with her.
Satoko-chan, I wonder what happened.
Don't ask me. I'm the one who wants to know most of all. It was already the 3rd day since Satoko's first absence. Ever since then, I haven't felt good. Until just last Sunday, everything had been so much fun. I had reached out to Satoko like a real older brother, and we spent that time quietly, but warm and comfortable. So why hadn't suddenly been flipped over? The more I thought about it, the more I thought that the world had taken a turn for the worse ever since Oishi arrived. Thinking on it now, maybe the strange apprehensions plaguing me the night before Oishi arrived had been a sign. Kuraudo Oishi, Oyashiro-sama's servant. Shit, that's impossible. They can't decide Satoko will be the curse victim this year just because he showed up. Just what sort of slip-up had I committed to cause those fun times to end so suddenly? Yes, it was the day before Oishi appeared. Shion, Mion, and Rena had spoken to the curse surrounding Satoshi and his disappearance, and it was so sinister it gave me a bad premonition. Such a small thing was the slip-up that invited Oyashiro-sama's servant. It was absurd. I kept on groaning to myself that I would never accept it, ever. I obviously wasn't the only one suppressing my feelings. Mion and Rena were too. Everyone in the class was doing it. Rika-chan knew something about Satoko's situation, but she wouldn't tell us. Rika-chan still held a calm attitude, like a cat basking in the sun, but she was being unbelievably stubborn about this whole thing. She didn't want to tell us, and that wouldn't change no matter how many times we asked her. Everyone understood that, so nobody questioned her.
If Rika-chan won't talk, then we just have to wait. And she might not be talking because it's something that we're saying.
There was no persuasive power and reassurance given with an anxious face like that. Mion was being taciturn, and just looked up at the sky with a somehow annoyed expression. I couldn't tell if she was unhappy that Rika-chan wouldn't talk about it with her own friends, or if she was concerned over Satoko's well-being. And what about me? My anxiety was suffocating me, day after day. If someone else were looking at me, then maybe I'd look annoyed, like Mion did. Tap tap. Someone tapped my shoulder. It was Tomita-kun and Okamura-kun. Mayabara-san, do you have a minute? Did your ball get stuck again? You guys have to get it yourselves this time. Don't rely on the older kids for everything. I didn't feel like going along with them, so I was a little unsympathetic with my response. We heard a little interesting rumor. A rumor? Yeah. I just thought it might have something to do with that. A rumor about Satoko. They hadn't said that, but it didn't seem unrelated. They didn't want to talk in the classroom, so they pulled me behind the school building, lending further credence to that thought. The back of the school was damp and humid like always. Students didn't really come here because they wanted to. It might, however, have been the ideal location for trading rumors away from prying eyes. Tomita-kun, Okamura-kun. These rumors, they're about why Satoko is absent, right? We don't know if it has something to do with it, though. Or maybe... What on earth happened to Satoko? Is she sick? Or could she be, like, really sick or injured or something? No, actually, it's the opposite. I heard my grandma saying that she came to buy tofu at her shop yesterday. Oh, Tomita's family runs a tofu shop, added Okamura-kun. She went shopping to buy some tofu? My voice sounds so stupefied, even I can tell. It was understandable. I was worried about what grave illness or injury she had, when the person herself had been out and about shopping for tofu. So, how was she? Did she look okay? Was she wearing a mask, like she was getting better? Or was she using crutches, or did she have bandages on her? No, there wasn't really any signs of sickness or injuries on her, but... I should have felt relieved that it wasn't an illness or an injury, but my anxiety wasn't going away, because Tomita-kun and Okamura-kun's expressions weren't looking any better. She apparently came to buy one piece of soft tofu, but my grandma said it was strange. Strange? Why? What's wrong with buying soft tofu? Irritated by how roundabout they were being, I had to desperately fight that irritation from creeping into my voice. Well, Hojo and Furude live by themselves, and they don't have that much money, right? so they only ever buy the cheaper, firmer kind of tofu. They've never bought the soft stuff. It's the most expensive thing there. Soft or hard are both tofu, right? Maybe she just wanted to eat some great tofu or something. Well, maybe, but... I knew how transparent I sounded right then. This wasn't anything trivial. It was some kind of important clue. Not the cheap firm tofu, but the expensive soft kind. Shopping not in the evening after school, but in the middle of the day. I couldn't figure out what those things meant. As I thought hard about it, Okamura-kun took his turn to speak. Me next. This is just a rumor, but apparently, he's back.
He? Who? Who's back?
Hojo's uncle.
Satoko's uncle. Right, I think Coach told me about him. Their aunt and uncle had taken them in after Satoko and Satoshi lost their parents in the accident.
Hojo's uncle. They say he skipped town last year, scared of Oyashiro-sama's curse. He's really scary and violent, like a gang member.
Everything Coach told me came back in bits and pieces. Right. The mean aunt and uncle who had tormented them all the time. I think he said that after their aunt was beaten to death by the deviant, he ran away to his lover's house in Okinomiya in fear of the curse. Why would she be staying home from school and shopping for soft tofu in the middle of the day just because her uncle came back? My underclassmen clammed up and looked downwards. There must have been some big hint buried in there. Even if I didn't understand, if I told Mion or Rena about it, maybe they would know something. Oh, my bad, you two. You were nice enough to talk about it, and I started hammering you with questions.
Oh, no, it's okay. Now we know that she hasn't been in bed this whole time gravely ill. That's worth something, right?
That might be true.
But it still won't. It won't make the clouds over my mind fade away. Ah! My Abara-san over there!
Okamura-kun cried wildly, pointing over my shoulders behind me. Startled, I turned around, and way on the other side of the schoolyard, near the school gate, I saw a figure trudging forth. Oh, hi. Empty eyes.
It's Hojo!
I burst into a run faster than I could speak, so that as quickly as possible, I could see with my own eyes that she was okay.
Satoko!
Satoko seemed taken aback by me shouting and running over to her.
No! My, what is it, Keiichi-san? You surprised me with all the yelling and running.
Stupid, enough about me already! 3 days. What happened, Satoko? I was so worried.
What a worrywart. It was only 3 days. You're such a worrywart, Keiichi-san.
From listening to her, she seemed like the normal Satoko, but I could tell she was clearly acting strangely. Her smile was somehow forlorn, and her complexion was bad for some reason.
Hojo! Were you alright? Were you sick or something?
Tomita-kun and Okamura-kun both expressed their concerns.
Just what happened anyway? 3 days! Do you know how worried I was?
No, I do so apologize. I was just giving the house a good cleaning. We haven't used it for a rather long time, so everything was covered in dust.
Huh? Satoko, what are you talking about? Why would you have to stay home from school to clean the house? Satoko didn't answer me. Instead, she passed by me and headed for the entrance.
Gosh! It is nearly about lunchtime, is it not? I am just starving.
It was certainly lunch break. I couldn't force her to stop after she told me she wanted lunch since she was so hungry.
Well, whatever. Rika-chan's been bringing your lunch for 3 days now. 3 days! What episode of SpongeBob was that? He keeps on saying 3 days, and I keep on trying to say it like that as a fucking funny joke, but I can't remember the reference.
You look like you can eat it today. Let's just go to the classroom and put everyone's minds at ease.
You're right. I suppose I may have caused everyone to worry. It sure is tough being popular.
I put a hand on Satoko's shoulder and we were into the classroom together. Up close, I was able to verify that Satoko looked somehow weak. All this anxiety was supposed to go away when I saw her again. That's what I had thought.
But now I actually started to have quite different fears. What the heck happened, Satoko? Everyone in the class, of course, reacted in the same exact way I had. We worried about you. I'm glad to see you well. What were you doing for 3 days? Our classmates showered her in questions.
I truly do apologize for causing a fuss.
As she cackled, she chowed down on the bento Rika-chan had made for her. Those in the teacher's lounge must have been informed of Satoko's arrival, because her teacher sprinted into the classroom, her breathing ragged. Yeah, those in the teacher's lounge, all 2 people who work here.
Hojo-san! Oh, Sensei! I'm sorry for worrying you these 3 days. As you can see, I am fit as a fiddle. I was very worried about you. When you are done eating, come right to the teacher's lounge. I have a lot to talk to you about. I must be in for a good scolding for those 3 days I cut class.
Satoko laughed sheepishly while she scratched her head, and the rest of the class burst out into laughter. The teacher was acting angry, but she breathed a sigh of relief at seeing Satoko healthy and smiling as she ate her lunch with the class surrounding her. What a relief. Right, Rena?
Huh? Oh, sorry. Yeah, I'm glad she's okay.
I looked at Rena and knew. She had a sense that something about Satoko was off, too. I looked to see Mion detached from the clamor as well, with a somewhat grim expression. Makes sense. But Rika-chan, on the other hand, was smiling from ear to ear. She spread out the bento boxes one by one as Satoko finished them. Finally, Satoko was satisfied, and after enjoying a thorough conversation with her classmates, remembered that she'd been called to the teacher's lounge.
It's such a pain, but I think she'll be angrier if I don't go. I'll go with you.
Satoko rises from her seat, and Rika-chan runs over to her.
I do apologize, Keiichi-san. I'll be right back after getting scolded.
Right. I mean, I could go with you too. We're all comrades in getting scolded in the teacher's lounge ever since the curry incident, right?
That won't be necessary. Keiichi should mind the place while we're away.
Rika-chan's words were gentle, but the firm rejection was clear in her eyes. The 2 of them exited into the hallway, walking shoulder to shoulder. After seeing them off, the class breathed a collective sigh of relief, broke apart, and went back to their usual lunch break together. Or wait, banter. How did I read that as together? I'm stupid idiot, nice to meet you. We, however, couldn't go back to how we usually were. Nope, serious time. Not I, not Mion, and of course, not Rena. They stared at the classroom exit Satoko and Rika-chan had left through, their expressions a little distant and grim. We're all friends. Isn't that right? I blurted out something strange, so Mion and Rena turned around with dubious expressions. I won't keep anything from my friends, so I'll tell you what I just heard a little while ago. I told them the stories I heard from Tomita-kun and Okamura-kun earlier about the tofu shop and how Satoko's uncle had apparently come back. All at once, without letting them speak. And that's all I know. So if either of you knows anything, please say so. I've said everything I can. I ended my sentence firmly and looked into Mion and Rena's eyes in turn. Rena stared right back at me. Her eyes didn't falter. Without even opening her mouth, I could tell she wasn't hiding anything. Then her gazes turned to Mion. It's not like I was trying to keep it a secret or anything. Mion couldn't seem to endure our silent stares and began to talk timidly, as if she was guilty of something. It's just, now that you've said something, Kei-chan, I guess I have to talk about it.
Mi-chan, you know something?
Well, I mean, I knew from the first day that Satoko's uncle had come home. That he just randomly showed up in Hinamizawa last Sunday. Why didn't you tell us that? I'm sorry! My angry shout caused Mion to flinch away, look down, and hang her head uncomfortably.
Keiichi-kun, it's nothing to get angry about. You're scaring Mi-chan.
Huh? Oh, sorry I shouted at you. I lowered my head in apology. Mion accepted it, collected herself, and continued. According to her, her uncle's relationship with his lover, whom he had been with in Okinomiya, had collapsed. Without anywhere to go, he went back home to Hinamizawa. And on that Sunday, the day of the barbecue, her uncle ran into Satoko and brought her back to the house. Why did he bring her with him? Because he's a good-for-nothing slob. He can't even cook by himself, much less do any cleaning.
But that's... He brought Satoko-chan back to have her cook and clean?
I remember that she said she'd been cleaning the house when I met her back at the school gate. A moment later, the pieces fell into place, into the jigsaw puzzle of unease. And as for what the puzzle depicted, when I saw it from afar, I could see the answer clearly. Satoko was locked up at home and tormented into doing the housework. Those are the rumors. If you knew that, why didn't you speak up? I nearly yelled that at Mion, but hastily stopped myself.
Mi-chan, is that true?
I haven't seen it myself, so I don't know if it's true or not. Mion looked down again and, staring at the floor, grew quiet.
Just like last year? Like when they lived with their mean uncle and his wife?
But this uncle is completely helpless when it comes to housework, right? If Satoko's that important, then there wouldn't be any reason to torment her, would there?
Keiichi-kun, I don't know what grounds you have for saying that, but you shouldn't be so irresponsible.
Rena clearly and directly got mad at me. You don't know much about this, so don't talk as though you do. And yes, that's clearly what she meant. Fine, then do you know something, Rena?
I don't know anything either. I didn't know her uncle had taken her to the house until hearing it just now. But the situation is different from a year ago.
The situation is different? What does that mean?
Satoshi-kun isn't here.
Satoshi really cared about his little sister. He always stuck up for her. He was her shield, so that she would be affected just a little less by her mean aunt and uncle's fighting.
The mean uncle and Satoko-chan are the only ones living there now. Can't you imagine how stifling that must be, Keiichi-kun? He only even came back because the lady he was depending on vanished and he couldn't look after himself. Do you think a person who came back for such an unpleasant reason would be able to treat Satoko-chan kindly?
She was right. It wasn't easy for me to imagine Satoko not being tormented. Sorry.
Oh, no, I'm sorry too. I sounded like I was interrogating you, didn't I?
An awkward atmosphere floated among us. The three of us remained silent and just stared at the floor. Finally, we heard the principal's bell ringing. The teacher came back with Satoko and Rika-chan at her side.
All right. We're starting afternoon class. Class president, please.
Everybody stand up.
Oh, I'm sorry. How rude of me.
Nope. I couldn't read anything from Satoko's vaguely sheepish expression, but given the clouded look Rika-chan was wearing behind her, it was tough to laugh off the disquieting story I'd heard from Mion. Alright! First time in a while everyone's been here. Let's all have a roaring good time with the whole club. Yeah, perfect. Indeed, in times like these, the best thing to do is obviously get rowdy and scheme against one another in a club activity.
Just what I was waiting for. Hey, Satoko-chan, let's play!
There was that game you liked, wasn't there? What was it again? It doesn't matter which. Tell me. Mion laughed happily, took a bunch of games out of the club locker, and lined them up on the desks. I think that was the first time Mion's ever let someone else decide on a game for her. I could tell she was being especially considerate to Satoko. thinking that whatever her circumstances, if we could just enjoy our time together as a group, that might be some comfort, some diversion. Satoko seemed to understand her feelings too, and smiled vaguely, though pleased. But her head slowly moved from side to side.
I'm very grateful, but your feelings are enough. There are many things I need to do, so...
Even Rika-chan hung her head in remorse. Hey, whoa! Seriously? All the club members are here for once, and we're not playing anything? Desertion in the face of the enemy. What was the punishment game for it? What part of the club constitution was that in?
Stop it, Mi-chan. We can't force her to play with us.
Hey, this old man isn't trying to force her or anything. I just thought it would be more fun for sure if we did something exciting.
Really, I'm happy you feel that way. Don't worry, next we meet, you'll see. I'll get you all caught in a gigantic trap.
Satoko, while insulting us, still said she couldn't participate in the club today and apologized. She quickly put her things into her bag and pattered out into the hallway, disappearing. It all happened in the blink of an eye.
Satoko.
Rika-chan stared lonesomely as her friend hurried home, unable to be part of club activities. Silence filled the classroom. Both the cheerful voices of her classmates in the schoolyard and the voices of the cicadas sounded like they were coming from some faraway world. This is boring. The silence was broken by Mion's bitterness as she began putting the games on the desk back into the locker. Everyone just stared absently at Satoko's seat, now empty.
Rika-chan, maybe you could tell us about it now?
Rena made as gentle a smile as she possibly could and spoke softly to Rika-chan. Even without hearing it from her, we pretty much knew the situation at this point. Satoko's uncle had broken up with his lover and come back home to Hinamizawa. And he had taken Satoko back home and forced her to do all the household work. And that all had to be pretty rough on her. Thinking this was common knowledge to everyone, I skipped to the important part. How's the situation? Maybe Mion and Rena wanted to ask the same question. Nobody spoke. We all just stared, waiting for Rika-chan's reply. Rika-chan still didn't answer us. We were hoping for her to say no, but her silence was a bad enough sign. Last year, was it? It was like this when both her uncle and his wife were here, right? Yeah. At the time, they were mostly just being caught between their aunt and uncle fighting. One of the ways we helped out was with the club, by reducing her time at home as much as we could, but he's making her do the chores now, so she can't stay at school either. Shit. Satoko's not a slave. Who do you think you are? Ignoring your own inability to live properly and basically putting Satoko under house arrest. When you think about it, isn't this really strange? We need a lot of circumstantial evidence, but it's a problem, right? Can we notify the police or something?
You're right. If we had evidence she was being abused, I think we could tell the police. And can we talk to Okinomiya's welfare people about this?
Rena and I kept saying police as though it were nothing, but Mion's response sounded like she thought we were a little naive. It's easy for you to say that. Have you thought about the risks of actually getting proof? What do you mean, risks? I think it was 2 winters ago. We reported it to Okinomiya's welfare center. We told them there was abuse happening and to do something right away.
Huh? You did? What happened?
A person came as soon as we called. She interviewed Satoko and Satoshi about what was going on. And then their uncle and his wife too. I can understand asking Satoko and Satoshi, but wouldn't it be not so good to talk to the aunt and uncle? They said they'd base their judgment on what they heard from both sides. Great of them, wasn't it?
So, what did they decide to do?
Wait and see. What do you mean, wait and see? The uncle really studied up on this stuff. By law, you can't call it abuse unless assault or child neglect has been established. They poked and prodded Satoko and Satoshi a lot, but it never left any real marks on them. They were pretty much eating 3 meals a day and had beds. And there weren't any recordings or something like that to prove they'd said or done anything to cause them psychological trauma. None of the villagers had ever actually seen them being violent either. No matter how mean you are, you wouldn't act so violent in front of other people. Nobody would.
Then, what happened?
The welfare officer apparently went to visit on the same day each week for a while. The aunt and uncle knew they were being watched though, and didn't torment them in any way that would stand out. Of course, that wasn't the end of it.
You mean they ramped up how malicious they were being?
Mion sighed and nodded. Their aunt was really damn stubborn. She's one of the most spiteful people I've ever known. Apparently she was doing some pretty disgusting things. Satoko was like a doll that did nothing but breathe by the end of it. So what? From that conclusion, does that mean that they never should have contacted child welfare in the first place? Understand. Without proof of abuse so clear anyone can see it, there's nothing we can do. In fact, it might even make the situation worse. We messed up pretty bad. After hearing that even public organizations, the one thing they thought was dependable, couldn't do anything, everyone hung their heads.
In other words, until we have clear evidence of abuse, we shouldn't notify anyone?
Well, I mean, basically, yeah. I considered Satoko's current situation. She was brought back to her house. It was a little difficult to call that abuse. She was being tormented and forced to do the chores. How she was being tormented would be the key, but without concrete evidence, it would be difficult to prove. If she had some kind of external injury, that would work, but as far as we could tell from today, she had nothing like that. And being forced to do the chores, that was a bit weak too. There had to be better evidence that she was without a doubt being abused. I know. Her uncle had ignored Satoko's existence for a whole year and went to live with his lover in town. Didn't that fall under one of the definitions of abuse that Mion had mentioned, child neglect?
Yeah, it's the perfect case of child neglect. What about that, Michan?
If her uncle weren't here now, it could be recognized as child neglect. But he's living with her at the moment, isn't he? They were apart before, but if he said something like he had a change of heart and decided to live with her, then they might just wait and see again. Once we reported it, we would need to be absolutely sure they'd interpret it as abuse. Maybe we needed far more concrete evidence, lest we repeat last year's mistake.
It's sad. This means we have to just sit quietly and wait, don't we?
The only plan I could think of was, in the end, just watching and waiting. It left me in shock when I realized that it would be the same policy as that of the officials who had made the situation worse. As Mion said, reporting it to a public agency would be a gamble. If we're going to pick a fight, it would have to be one that we couldn't afford to lose. If we were gambling, without enough money, without enough evidence, our defeat would be assured. If we took the time to amass enough money that we could be sure of victory, then that would mean pretending we didn't see Satoko's plight for a considerable amount of time. Sorry for bringing this up now, but how was Rika-chan able to live by herself? Rika-chan had lost her parents, if I recalled correctly. From what I'd heard, she had no relatives either. She was forced to live on her own as a result, but her life was unfettered, free of restriction. If she could somehow grant that freedom to Satoko, too. I mean, Rika-chan, you're living without any parents, right? Don't kids with no guardians have to go to some sort of institution?
Keiichi-kun, that's cruel.
I'm not saying it to be mean. I only asked because I thought maybe there would be a hint to saving Satoko. Rika-chan, sorry if I offended you. Rika-chan shook her head, not particularly disturbed.
Well, you see, it's because I'm considered the mayor's daughter.
Oh. Let me explain. The mayor, Old Man Kimiyoshi, is Rika-chan's guardian. He got official permission from the governor of the prefecture. Huh. So you're adopted? No, not adopted. You can be someone's guardian without being in the same family.
Oh, I get it. Rika-chan lives by herself, But by law, she's considered to live with the mayor, right?
Yeah, basically. That's why Rika-chan is allowed to live separately from her guardian. However, Satoko is actually living there as a freeloader.
Meep. I don't understand the hard things, but anyway, she's right.
Interesting you should say that, Mion. You can be someone's guardian even if they're in another family? Then shouldn't we have the mayor or someone else become Satoko's guardian, if only on paper? Then she'd be in the same position as Rika-chan, and she could go back to her old life. Too bad it won't work! I mean, her uncle is supposedly her guardian. Wait a minute. You lost me there. What's a guardian exactly anyway? In legal terms, a guardian and a parent weren't necessarily synonyms. So, whoever was actually looking after her at home would be considered her guardian. Then her uncle isn't... Wait, that's Keiichi. Then her uncle isn't her guardian. He left Satoko by herself for so long. But if he insists he's her guardian, then that's it. It's been a few days since Satoko was taken back to her house. Her uncle's been paying for her meals since then, right? He is sort of looking after her, so he'd probably insist. And even though he abandoned her for a year, he'd already looked after her for the whole year before that. But the mayor doesn't have that kind of history.
So then if both the mean uncle and the mayor requested guardianship at the same time, the uncle would make more sense?
No, but he'd have a better chance. The term guardian refers to the person actually caring for her, right? The uncle actually has a bed and food for her, but the mayor would just have his name. It wouldn't even be a contest. Then shouldn't the mayor just start caring for her for real? He'd be her guardian in name and reality if he did. We just need to shelter Satoko. That might lead to her uncle being desperate to take her back, but will stubbornly refuse him. It won't be that easy. Satoko was a growing girl, you know? It's not like giving someone a cat. You're asking him to care for a real person. Then Coach. What about Coach? Coach, I don't know, he's got a lot of money, right? He even said it himself. Even if he's not her real father, Coach could become her guardian. Coach would be great at taking care of her. Stop that! Stop thinking of Satoko like a pet. All you're doing is talking about pushing her onto someone else. You need to think more seriously about how much responsibility it is to care for another human being. Did you ask him? Did you get an actual promise from him that he'd take Satoko under his care? No, I didn't. But Coach would definitely say yes. Ha! Well, fine. Even considering the 0% probability of Coach saying it was okay, then what? It still wouldn't work. He couldn't become a guardian all by himself. Ah, that's right. Coach, didn't he say it himself? He was alone, so he couldn't do it. Shit, what the hell? Why is being single such a disadvantage in this society? Is the uncle not single? Like, then all you could do is marry into a wealthy family, couldn't you?
Is there anyone that wealthy in Hinamizawa? I'm not sure.
See? It's not simple. It's hard to adopt someone. And you can't go into it thinking you'll push Satoko onto someone else just for a little while. You're being naive, Kei-chan. Shit. Damn it. What the hell? I'm desperately thinking of how to save Satoko, and all you're saying is no, no! Don't you care about Satoko at all? Are you even worried about our friend one bit? What do you have to say for yourself? I didn't mean that! But it just won't be that easy, and it's not that difficult a problem. We just need to have some rich people look after Satoko for a while, that's all! Right, what about your family, Mion? You always brag about how great it is being one of the 3 families or whatever, don't you? From what you've said, you must live in a gigantic house. My house? No, that won't happen. My grandma would never allow it. And what about your relatives in Okinomiya? From what I heard, they're living in luxury themselves. There's plenty of shops your relatives manage in town, too. Your family are basically millionaires, aren't they? No, that won't work. Going to Okinomiya is even more out of the question. My father, he'd never let it happen, ever. Hey! Normally you act like some high and mighty bigwig, and now you're being all spineless. What the hell? Are you just going to sit by and watch Satoko suffer? No, I don't, but... I mean, I want to help her as much as you. It's a different story. How is it a different story? How can you be so cold-hearted? Your friend is in trouble. What are you if you don't rescue her? You're our president, our club president. Save her! Save her from this crisis! If you don't save her right now, you're not her friend. You're not even human. I don't know if you have any humanity left in you. Are you listening to me, Mion? Okay, dude. My emotions all exploded out of me, and I didn't even give her a chance to say anything in response. I just wanted to make Mion agree with me, even if I had to force her. If she did, Satoko's problems would be resolved. If pushing her would solve the issue, then I'd push her as much as I needed to. Why aren't you saying anything anymore? I'm asking you, asshole! Well, say something, Mion Sonozaki!
Me?
Mion, looking down with a grim face, began sobbing. Her hands were clenched into trembling fists, and she rubbed her eyes to wipe away the tears. Was what I said actually that mean? This isn't the time to cry. We're in the gambling room now, and we have to do something to save Satoko. And as I thought that, Rena spoke, her voice cold and incredibly calm.
Keiichi-kun, if Michan's family won't work, then what if we look for another wealthy family? I know someone in Hinamizawa who lives in a nice big house.
Who's that?
Oh, come on! You've got a splendid family and you're leaving it out of things?
My family? My family is...
Your friends, right? Save her, Keiichi-kun. Michan is cold-hearted after all. Since you are so considerate towards friends, you should lead by example. Just the three of you are living in that huge house, right? Then you've probably got plenty of spare rooms. You should just give a few of the empty ones to Satoko-chan, and then her worries would be all over. What's this? We're done already? That was pretty quick. Okay, great. Congratulations on solving the problem. Then are we done for today? I'm going home. Hooray, hooray! Maybe I'll go treasure hunting. I haven't done that in a while. I was so worried about Satoko-chan until now that I didn't feel like going to play at all. I wonder what I'll find today. Say something, will you? Why am I the only one talking? Say something, you
Okay.
You bastard! Are you listening, Keiichi Maebara?
Even the cicadas seemed to cower in fear. Rena, her shoulders bobbing up and down, and me, who had forgotten to breathe. Mion, whose face had gone completely pale, and Rika-chan, who was keeping silent as if nothing had happened. Rena okay, her getting mad is like, yeah, that's something that happens, obviously, but... Okay, sir! It's fucking making the moment spicy all of a sudden, Jesus Christ. The atmosphere in the classroom grew tight and stiff, and it petrified us where we stood. Rattle. The sound of the chair as Rena sat back down after having stood up finally allowed everyone present to take a breath. Rena had shown me just how much I'd hurt Mion.
Rena's scary.
After a few moments, Rika-chan cut into the frozen air.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Rika-chan. Mi-chan, I'm sorry to you too. I don't have to apologize to you, do I, Keiichi-kun?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm sorry for being so unreasonable.
Were you saying all that to me before? You said about glaring at Mi-chan, so I totally thought you were talking to her.
Rena had such strength that you wouldn't have imagined it normally. All I did was spout terrible things as a wave of violent fury passed over me, and I couldn't contend with her. Mion, I'm sorry. I lost my cool. Come to think of it, I didn't understand what had gotten me that riled up. I thought of myself as Satoko's Nini, so I only had good intentions, that I'd think about it a little harder than everyone else, and yet... Okay, but imagine, though, from that little outburst Rena did, if after that, Keiichi was just like, fine, I'll do it, damn. And she's just like, wait, fuck. My gotcha didn't work, damn it. It's okay. You were worrying with everything you had, but all I was saying was that nothing would work. So, I'm sorry. I did something wrong too. Mion rubbed away the tears at the corners of her eyes with her fists and apologized as well. We bowed our heads to each other and looked down, without glancing at the other. Alright, well I think I'm gonna end things here for now. With my luck, I'm 3 minutes away from the end of this chapter, I realize. But still, my throat hurts from that screaming. So I need to take a little bit of a break from talking. That's gonna be it for this pretty good episode, actually. This episode was pretty good. If you liked it, then be sure to press the like button, and if you didn't like it, then fuck you too. Remember to subscribe, follow me on Twitter, and hit that notification bell to stay up to date on all my videos and stuff. And as always, my name is Godzi, and I will see you all next time. Goodbye!